This is my second video on this $30 RC jet that comes ready to fly with this controller and this landing gear. I just threw on the landing gear today, so I want to show you guys some takeoffs and some landings. I did have to work on the landing gear. I had to wiggle it loose and make it roll free so I can actually use them before it's too stiff. So it was pretty easy to do, but anyways. With the landing gear now on this model, after I smoothed it out, you can now even practice takeoffs and landings. And because it's a 4-channel, you can get used to like having to steer with your left stick on the takeoffs and landings. As you can see, there's little to no wind this morning, so I wanted to take it out. So this is $32. It took 7 days to arrive to my house from the purchase date. I ordered the version with 2 noses and 2 sets of landing gear because I expected some landing gear to be stiff and maybe one pair would just be good out of the box. That did not happen. Both were stiff, so I just wiggled them loose by hand and bored out a little bit of the wheel with an X-Acto knife, and that pretty much worked enough. So you could practice touch and goes, and I completely changed my mind about this model maybe being boring because it has 2 gyro settings supposedly. They both feel the same and both are gyroed. There's no manual mode on this model, but because of that, I've also never crashed this model as hard as any of my other planes because you never are able to fly it fully manual. And the gyro is really steady, especially in no wind. It holds the plane super scale in my opinion. Like for its size, it can fly pretty slow, which I like a lot. This is fine on pretty low power too. When it's a low wind day, you do not have to use a whole lot of power to fly this model. It comes with stunt buttons to do rolls as well as loops. I do not recommend doing the rolls pretty much ever because if you are going to do it, make sure it's absolutely no wind, because sometimes you get stuck inverted and you can crash and lose altitude and truly be stuck. Even if you start to throttle up or down, it gets pretty intense. So even though there's only gyro settings, I find it's really a lot of fun, especially once I fix the landing gear. Because you can see in no wind, or low wind, there's a little bit of wind right now. You start to get some really good practice with this plane. These fly like the warbirds in the gyro setting, except these also float. It's kind of confusing because they're entirely different planes. I'm comparing them to my warbirds, the 400mm that cost $100 on Amazon. They both have similar gyro settings like bank limits, but this plane is so steady and it actually glides on its own. Like I can hand toss this Let me see if I could. I mean, you can kind of tell from there, but I'll toss this into the air and you can see it will glide for a second before you have to throttle up. So it's really, really beginner friendly. If you want to hand toss in belly land, you just toss. And you see there's a couple of seconds before I actually throttle up. So let me get back on the other side of the street. To do this, like I said, I did have to smoothen out my wheels. So maybe order, there's a couple of different options. I ordered a $32 option shipped. And that's the 2 sets of the front nose and landing gear. So if you want to modify it to practice landings or takeoffs, you probably want to order that version. It came with lights that you can turn off on the controller. They turn on every time you power it up, but you can turn it off on the controller. It seems like every version comes with those lights, so you can fly it at night. Let me show off the loop button before the battery dies, because I'm using the 400 mAh batteries right now and not the 500 mAh battery that it's included with. So that's the only stunt I'd recommend doing. The rolls can really get you into trouble, so I do not recommend doing them. But you see, it does the loops pretty good. It's kind of hard to lose altitude on this model without just like cutting throttle pretty much, because it wants to glide for a good amount of time. So you have really long flight time with how efficient this model is, and it's very low stress. It's a lot slower than the Warbirds, especially if you hold up and like try to control the throttle. You can hold up. Right now I'm just holding up max and just controlling throttle to like slow it down. You cannot do that with the Warbirds, you know. I think that's a lot less stressful. It's pretty cool that the landing gear is actually pretty decent on this once you clean up the wheels. The way it's held in place, as long as you don't bang up your landing gear, the way it works is pretty cool. And it has little wind resistance with this design, so I'm pretty happy with it. A bird coming in for us. Oh, that was interesting. So you can see this model is pretty damn steady, especially for $32. This is a lot of fun. I find myself picking up this model the most in the morning to pick up and fly, if I'm only going to fly one plane, because I have little to no stress with this model. So that's a low battery warning. So I'm just going in for a landing. You have a decent amount of time with the low battery from what I can tell. About 2 minutes, but so that was it. Hope you actually buy this model. It's a really, really good model, in my opinion. Clear canopy and all, as you can see. Made good for hand tosses, so you can put your fingers right there. How the servos are. Plenty of battery space. I like it. Really efficient. That was with a 400 mAh battery right there.